and it's super easy to clean, according to him.
If you cook regularly at home, you're almost certainly going to be prepping some vegetables.
At least you probably should be.
Vegetables are key to so many recipes, from breakfast to lunch to dinner. But vegetable prep can get a little tedious sometimes.
Fortunately, we have a lot of great tips and tools to make vegetable prep easier. Lisa and I are going to show you some of our favorite gear and some gear we think you should avoid so you can prep veggies to your heart's content. But first, we have a book coming out. It's called Kitchen Gear, The Ultimate Owner's Manual.
The two of us have 30 years of combined experience testing kitchen gear, and we've packed all of our favorite tips and tricks into this book.
We give you our unbiased take on what's worth buying and what's not. Plus, you'll find over 100 ATK recipes that bring out the best in your gear.
Get your copy of Kitchen Gear, The Ultimate Owner's Manual today. First up, Hannah.
Mandolins make veggie prep easier because they make super precise, consistent cuts, and they do so very quickly. They all function basically the same way. You slide the food down across the blade while you hold onto the mandolin with your other hand. The blade, you can raise and lower it, and that makes a thicker or thinner slice. Some of them also come with different blades that you can load in to make fun cuts like waffle cuts. I mean, who doesn't love waffle fries? So we have tested a whole bunch of these things. At their best, they truly mimic impeccable knife skills, and they make things go a heck of a lot faster, which is a boon for your veggie prep. At their worst, they are downright dangerous or extremely frustrating and will just end up in your cabinet collecting dust. We came away from our testing with 3 top winners. Our top overall is a chefy favorite, the Ben Reiner. You will see this in restaurants. It's capable of making some of the most whisper-thin, beautiful cuts you will ever see. We also love the OXO right here. This I will call the easiest to use. It doesn't quite get as thin or precise as the Ben Reiner, but it's a lot easier to use. It's got this foot, it's super stable. We also love the Kyocera paddle model. I actually have one of these at home and I reach for it a lot. You can just store it right in a drawer. It doesn't do as much, but it's also a heck of a lot easier to use and clean. It's our best compact option. So the first thing we considered with our mandolins was their range of thicknesses. You know, we really wanted a mandolin that could do gossamer thin wisps of fennel for a salad, all the way up to thick slabs for eggplant parmesan. This range in thicknesses and consistency in thicknesses will also help your food be better. If you have super consistent slices of eggplant parmesan, your dish is going to cook nice and evenly, versus if you have a thin one that's going to overcook or a thick one that's not going to cook enough. Our top models here ranged in thicknesses from 0.5 millimeter, so thin you could practically see through it, all the way up to 9.5 millimeters on the large end of things. Those that ended up towards the bottom of our rankings just didn't do as much. We really wanted to see a broad range, and that's why these two landed at the top of our rankings. So sharp blades were obviously essential here. You can't really take these blades out to sharpen them, so we wanted models that came sharp from the outset. We tested a wide range of things, from super delicate tomato skins to really rugged celeracs. Another major thing here was blade shape. V-shape is a common shape for mandolins, as is straight blades, like I have in front of me. We much preferred straight blades. They had more even, more consistent results. Another thing that was important, big platforms. That's the thing I'm talking about right here. You need some room to work. You know, you want to be able to slide a full eggplant along here, carrots. You want to be able to do a range of size veggies and fruits. These are bigger to store. That is a downside, which is why the Kyocera paddle model is fantastic for smaller tasks. But if you want something that can do a wider range in sizes and fruits and veggies, a big platform about 4 inches across was ideal. And lastly, rubber feet helped grip the counter so these things didn't move around when you're using them, which is definitely a major thing for safety. Here are a couple tips we learned along the way in our mandolin testing to help use these things more safely and more easily. First of all, go slow. Most injuries happen when people get going too fast. You got that momentum, it's cutting beautifully, you get all excited, and then boom, you cut your finger. Second of all, some of these come with hand guards, and you can use those to help keep your fingies safe. If you don't have a good hand guard, or if you just want to add an additional layer of protection, cut-resistant gloves can be really useful with mandolins. And then also make sure you're always cutting on a flat surface, and clear out the food as it piles up underneath so you don't get a backup. Also, cut the food in half so you are slicing on a flat surface. And finally, washing. Do not put a mandolin in the dishwasher. It will definitely make it dull faster, and like I said before, you can't really sharpen these things. All right, so that is our mandolin roundup. We absolutely love these tools. They can really help with your veggie prep. Just be careful. Next up in our veggie prep series, spiralizers. These hit the market like 5 years ago and made a big splash. I think everyone had one at the time. We still love them for a couple reasons. No shade to the low-carb crowd, but I'm not using one of these to replace pasta. I still love pasta. I think what you get out of one of these things is different shapes and textures of vegetables, so you can make more interesting vegetable dishes. Zucchini noodles with a beautiful topping is absolutely a gorgeous dish for the summer, and a good way to use up all that zucchini bounty. So most spiralizers work roughly the same way. You want to square off your veggie so the machine can get a good grip on it, and these spikes here hold one side. This little round circle over here holds the other side. That keeps the veggie firmly in place, and then you turn this crank and progressively push this closer as the blades cut up the vegetable. Nice, beautiful noodles or whatever slice you're making come out this side. This is our new winner from OXO. Our previous winner was from Paderno, but we ran into some availability issues there. We just retested and we really fell in love with this OXO model. But the Paderno's still great if you can find it. So let's get into it and talk about what makes a good spiralizer. We knew we wanted a spiralizer that could handle all sizes, shapes, and densities of fruits and vegetables. We also wanted one that was easy to set up, easy to use, stable on the countertop, and easy to clean. A good spiralizer should also generate long, unbroken noodles. We also want one that doesn't create a ton of waste. So we spiralized zucchini, apples, beets, sweet potatoes, and butternut squash, measuring everything before and afterwards to look at how much waste each of the machines generated. None of these models were absolutely perfect, but our winner did have a few things that made it rise to the top of the pack. First of all, it was the most stable. Stability is really important here because you're exerting a lot of force onto this little machine. You don't want things to slip around. You want to feel nice and confident in what you're doing. And the OXO here and the Paderno have a lower profile. Another thing we really liked about the OXO was this suction pad that it has on the bottom that really helps anchor it to the countertop. You operate it with this little bar right here. I'm going to release the suction right now, break the suction, pulling up the tab, and you can lift it off easily. But to put it back on the counter, you simply crank that down. Now it's really locked in there, and that extra stability makes spiralizing so much easier. And none of these were exactly easy to clean, but the OXO was easier than most. All right, so spiralizers are admittedly a little niche, but they can accomplish cuts that you can't do with your chef's knife. A spiralizer can be a fun way to open up a new dimension of veggies. Another one of my favorite veggie tools is the humble grater. Now, a good food processor with a shredding disc can make quick work of a pile of zucchini or shredded cheese. We always keep graters on hand for smaller tasks and when you don't want to lug out a big machine. Now, we tested two styles of graters, box and paddle, and we have a winner in each. This is our box winner from Cuisinart and our paddle style winner from Rosalie. Now, there are pros and cons of each style, and that's why we ended up with two winners. We'll get into that a bit later, but first let's talk about what makes a good grater in general. First off, tooth style was really important. Now, there are two different styles in our lineup. The first off was stamped, where the holes are stamped out of a more rigid piece of metal. The second style is etched, where the holes are eroded out of a thinner piece of metal by chemicals. The teeth on etched graters sit lower, whereas the teeth on stamped graters sit higher. And both worked well, but we generally preferred stamped graters because that wider space allowed them not to get clogged quite as much. Stamped graters were also better with soft and malleable foods. They grated them more efficiently, more easily, and more completely. Because the metal used to make etched graters was thinner and more flexible, we found they buckled more easily, and we didn't like that. The teeth had to be sharp. It's not like you can sharpen one of these things, so they had to arrive sharp right out of the box. We also found that the dimensions of the grating surface really mattered. The bigger a surface you have, the faster you can get through food because you have more runway to grate your food on before you restart another swipe. Testers were divided when it came to the style of grater they preferred. Some prefer the paddle style because they can be used several different ways, hooked over a bowl, on top of a cutting board. Also, people like to be able to cut at an angle versus more vertical, like you cut with a box grater. The paddle graters were also notably easier to clean and store, so definitely a couple pros over here. The box graters, on the other hand, were more stable because they had four sides, and also they helped contain some of the shreds because everything you're grating goes down into this chamber right here. Regardless of style, we liked rubbery, grippy bases. See, this one has two little feet right here. This one has a nice grippy base right here that allows them to sit more securely on the countertop. We also liked big handles, which were more comfortable and secure to hold. If it had a rubbery grip on it, that was an extra bonus and felt a little more secure, which is really nice, especially when your hands are a little wet. So which style is your favorite? I'm team paddle. Let us know what yours is in the comments. Either way, a grater is a great way to speed up your veggie prep. Next up, we have a family of products we do not recommend. Specialized vegetable cutting tools like the slap chop here. I think the alligator chopper is another one that falls into this category. Basically, these tools promise to cut things for you and make it super easy. You might remember this if you couldn't sleep sometime in 2008 at 3 in the morning. You saw this wild-looking fellow over here on an infomercial trying to promise you that your life will be that much easier with one of these things. We put these to the test for real because, you know, we like to keep an open mind. But we found ourselves detangling cut up pieces of carrots and onions from this sketchy, sharp blade. It also cut things so unevenly and bruised them. We were sobbing from the onions. We recommend instead sticking with the most simple of all veggie prep tools, a chef's knife and a cutting board. Next up, Lisa with some of her favorite veggie prep tools and tips.
First thing I'm going to talk about today is vegetable peelers. Back in the day, you had to use a paring knife. My mom and all older Italian ladies cut everything in their hands with a small knife like this. We have better things now. Enter vegetable peelers. The original kind is this straight kind, and you can see why. It really resembles the knife that, it was developed from. The newest version is called a Y peeler for obvious reasons. The blade goes across rather than directly out from the handle. We tested both kinds, and these were our winners. I tested something like 17 peelers. It was a lot of vegetables being peeled in every direction. Our favorite straight style peeler is by OXO. It's the Good Grip Swivel Peeler. Our overall winner is a Y style peeler, and this is the original Swiss peeler by Kuhn Rikon. This has been our longtime favorite for years and years in the test kitchen. We supply all the equipment that the test cooks can use here in the kitchen, and a bunch of them were carrying this peeler in their chef coat pockets. And I said, why are you bringing your own peeler from home? I put it in a testing that I did against a bunch of other peelers, and it's won repeatedly over the years. Both of these have sharp, maneuverable blades. This one is made of carbon steel, and this one is stainless steel. Carbon steel, you have to keep them dry, occasionally oil it to prevent any kind of rust. Stainless steel, you don't have that kind of maintenance. But both of these started out really sharp, and they stayed really sharp throughout testing. These have very maneuverable heads. They're very slim, and both of them were not afraid of the delicate stuff and could handle the tough stuff. All peelers are basically swivel peelers. This means the blade will rock so that as you're following the contours of a vegetable, you don't have to turn your arm. The blade kind of rocks and directs itself. The two blades have a really important purpose. The first half rides along the surface of the vegetable, and it sets the angle for the second half. And that made a huge difference in peelers that we tested. Some of them made really thick peels. And sure, they got the surface off, but they also wasted like half of the carrot. So you hit this Goldilocks moment with these two peelers. A lot of people say, why are you so stuck on Y peelers? And don't knock them till you've tried them. When you're peeling, you can see exactly what you're doing. It gives you more control. This style is one of the more visible models of a straight peeler, but a lot of them have these very thick backs. You can't see where the blade is and what it's actually doing. Finally, they were really easy to clean. They didn't trap food anywhere. They rinsed off. We don't believe you should put any bladed tool from your kitchen into the dishwasher. The dishwasher environment is just rough on blades. You want to be able to keep it in great shape so that peeling is not such a chore. And another really cool thing about peelers that you might not have realized is that they have this thing called a potato eye remover. This loop on this one and this little scoop on the end of this one, that's what they're for. So while you're peeling, you just get in there and just snick it out and get rid of it and keep peeling. Another thing that we really liked about both of these is that they have very neutral grips. They're very ergonomically friendly to right and left-handed people and to however you want to hold them. You don't feel like you're punished if you have to peel a pile of carrots. Now, let's talk about the salad spinner. So I personally tested salad spinners here at ATK. You want one that has a really good capacity. This one holds a lot of greens. It's got a nice big open basket. It's got this little stem in it, but that's the only thing that protrudes into the basket. Some of them had weird tube pan shapes or other things that you were really crushing the produce when you were putting it in to wash. And that's not good. You want to handle everything gently so it stays really fresh. This works like a child's toy. As you push down, it spins the basket. It's actually easy to do, and it's kind of fun. And then for storage, you can lock the thing down and it stays flat. And has a little brake that works to stop it. I took a weighed amount of greens and a measured amount of water, and I put them in together and spun them dry and then weighed them again. The only one that got close to 100% of the water off those greens was this one from OXO. Some of the other ones fell pretty short, and there's a few reasons for that. One is that it gets going very quickly, as I said. The other is the basket is actually suspended on a little point in there. And you can get, I think, up to a half cup of water off of these greens before they're re-wetting on the bottom as the basket goes through. Don't just put the produce in here and rinse it under the sink and use this to spin it. Use the exterior bowl to really flood the greens or the produce that you're washing. Sploosh it around a little with your hands, that's a technical term. And then rinse it out, dump that, then put it back in, then spin it. And if there's a lot of water coming off of it, dump that and spin it again. You don't want them to be damp because that will encourage them to start to spoil. This one is very easy to clean because the top actually just pops open right here for easy cleaning and for full drying, which is really important. The rest of this washes very quickly in the sink, and it is dishwasher safe. So if you go to the farmer's market or you have farm share and you want to wash your produce really well, a salad spinner is the way to go. So here's another way to make your life easier for veggie prep: the garlic press. Now, I know a lot of people will say things like, you don't need a garlic press, you can just chop it with your chef's knife. Yes, you can, if you have good knife skills. When we call for minced garlic here at ATK, we almost always say use a garlic press because you want uniform, small pieces. So we tested a bunch of these. This is our winner. It's by Kuhn Rikon. It's the Epicurean garlic press. It's all stainless steel. This one has been our longtime favorite for a couple of reasons. These have nice long handles, and it's got just a beautiful mechanism. It really works very smoothly. So you can really squeeze it with just one hand, even if you're a comparative weakling like me. It's very hard to see, but the holes are actually funnel shaped. So they're a little bit wider when they first go in, and then they narrow out. It actually makes it easier to press the garlic through and to still get the same size pieces. It will just kind of zoop it through a little faster and a little more smoothly. It's got this nice big plate to press. So this is called the hopper, and this is the plunger. You put the garlic in, and you close it, and the plunger pushes it through to the other side. Most of the garlic goes out the front. It's not coming out the sides and the back and every place else and not getting crushed. Maybe all that part was fine in your garlic press, but then you're done, and there's garlic all stuck in there, and it's a pain to clean, and you're detailing it with a toothpick. I know, because the one I used to have, I had to do that. This one, that hopper comes right out. So you just flick that stuff out the side, rinse it, and it comes clean, which is amazing. It's so easy. And finally, just being 100% stainless steel. This is a very solid tool. It's not going to break on you. So number one tip I found with this, don't peel the cloves. Don't bother. Save yourself a step. Put them in here with the peel on. It presses out just fine. And when you're done, and you lift out that hopper, it just flicks away. It takes all the residue with it. Second, if you ever find it really hard to squeeze, just cut the little stem end off the clove. And that just breaks the tension of the skin and makes it much easier to press. Or you can just cut it in half and put the two halves in face down in the hopper, squeeze it, beautiful. The next thing I really like to do, and this is just a minor tip, but it will save your knife. Use the back of the knife, the spine, not the sharp edge, as you're swooping down to get rid of the garlic. Finally, don't leave this out to dry and let that garlic harden on there and turn into garlic cement. If you can't wash it right away, soak it in the sink right away. This one is much easier than most to clean, but you know as well as I do, if it dries in those holes, it gets harder and harder to clean. So just throw it in the sink right away, and it will clean up in a second afterward. So we have a few quick tips for peeling garlic that are very easy to do. So if you have just 1 or 2 cloves to peel, use the side of your knife. Just put the clove on the cutting board, put the side of the blade on, and whack it. That will pop the peel right off the clove. If you have to do it a lot of garlic at once, break the head of the garlic open and then put all of those into a mason jar. Close it up and shake it hard like you're shaking a cocktail. For about 15 seconds, all the peels will fly off. If you're going to be prepping garlic, the easiest way to do it, as I said, get yourself a good garlic press and it will be no big deal from now on. Now for something completely different. Something you should totally avoid. These are the toss and chop salad scissors. This is designed to make it super easy to make a chopped salad by just throwing everything in a bowl and preparing it there. No knife or cutting board needed. Didn't work out that way. It took so much more effort than a knife and a cutting board, and the results just looked like a monster had been in there. It was terrible. These have a few problems, and the first being that they don't open wide enough to really grab a lot of food, and they're fairly short. You could chop a carrot because it could fit in this space, but when you did, it just sent it flying. It couldn't get around a round tomato. It just had to kind of bite at it, and then you had to flip it around and chop it some more. By the time you're done, you've got all these raggedy, juiced up pieces that are just a mess. It was exhausting. Skip them. So with all the tips and tricks and gadgets that Hannah and I have showed you today, hopefully veggie prep will go so much easier for you. For more information on all the gear we talked about today, check out the links below or see americastestkitchen.com.
And what are your tips and tricks for making veggie prep flyby? One of our favorites is to put some good tunes on. What are you listening to in the kitchen? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.